Living Jewishly means learning how to listen to more than one rhythm at once. There is the rhythm of the Torah, steady and ancient, carrying us week after week. There is the rhythm of time with Shabbat and the seasons with their holidays. And there is the rhythm of the world around us. This Shabbat, those rhythms meet in a particularly beautiful way. Here in New Orleans, Mardi Gras is in the air. 'Tis the season of brass bands and beats, of parades and dancing, of costumes and color, and lots of tchotchkes spilling into the streets. And simultaneously, we arrive at the next holy moment, Rosh Chodesh Adar, which is beginning on Tuesday, the beginning of the month of Adar. Our sages tell us, Mi shenichnas Adar marbim besimcha. When Adar enters, we increase in joy. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, of blessed memory, taught something that has stayed with me for years. He said, there is a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is something you can experience alone. You can be happy with a good meal, a quiet vacation, a new purchase, a compliment, a moment of comfort. Joy in Judaism is something you do with others. The Torah says, rejoice, and it usually says it in the plural. You rejoice at a wedding, at a Brit Milah, a B'nai Mitzvah celebration, at a holiday meal. You rejoice when the community gathers. Sachs writes that joy is not simply the emotion that comes when life is going well. Joy is something deeper. Joy is gratitude. Joy is thanksgiving. Joy is the ability to say, even in a complicated world, that life is a gift. And he says something else that I think is one of the most powerful spiritual truths in Judaism. Joy alone has the power to defeat despair because it reminds the soul, you are not alone. Because it reconnects you to other human beings and it lifts you out of the prison of your own fear. Happiness can be conditional, but joy, simcha, is something you can access even when things are not perfect. There is a line from the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard that I think captures something profound about spiritual life. It is moral to grieve. It is religious to rejoice. In many cultures, joy is seen as optional. It is like a luxury or a reward. It's something you get when everything else is taken care of. But in Judaism, joy is not optional. It's a mitzvah, a commandment. And that's actually a radical spiritual claim. Because it means Judaism understands something we often forget. Joy is not only something that happens to you. Joy is something you cultivate and practice and increase. And then comes Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, one of the great teachers of Hasidic Judaism, who takes this idea and turns it into a full spiritual path. Rabbi Nachman taught that a person must never let up in the quest for joy. He famously said, it is a great mitzvah to be in joy always. Always? Really? But Rabbi Nachman wasn't naive. He knew personally what sorrow is. He knew what depression is. He knew what it means to feel stuck. And so he told a parable. He said, imagine there's a circle of dancers. They're holding hands, singing and moving together. And off to the side stands one person too sad to join. He watches the circle but cannot step into it. And then, finally, one of the dancers breaks away, walks over, grabs the sad person by the hand and pulls him into the dance. At first, the sad person resists, but the circle is strong, the rhythm is contagious, the joy is shared, and slowly, the person begins to dance. And then Rabbi Nachman adds the most brilliant part. As the person dances, he notices his sadness standing outside the circle, looking disapprovingly. And Rabbi Nachman says, Your task is not only to bring yourself into the circle, your task is to bring your sadness into the circle too, to pull it in, to make it dance, to transform it, to redeem it. Joy is transformation. I think New Orleans understands this teaching in its bones. Mardi Gras is what happens when a people say, we have known suffering, we have known loss, we have known poverty, we have known racism, we have known death, and still we will play music in the street and sing and dance. We will dress in color and we will make joy loud enough to push back against despair. New Orleans practices joy precisely because life is hard. We're also on the heels of the very much talked Super Bowl halftime show. And I'll be honest, the performer is not necessarily someone I personally admire in any way. If you know Spanish, you might understand why. But that's not the point. The show itself, the choreography, had a powerful symbolism. What struck me was a message that I read about the performance. They wrote, joy was the protest. They pointed out that Latin American joy is often misunderstood. It can be treated as excessive, even suspicious, as if celebrating must always be justified, as if a people are only allowed to be taken seriously when they are displaying pain. And as I read it, I found myself thinking, as a Latin American Jew, I know what it means to come from a culture where music and food and laughter are part of how life is carried. It is part of how many people in many countries survive. It is a part of a culture that allows its people to remain human. It is part of how some nations refuse to be reduced to trauma. There is something deeply powerful about being a colorful people, about being a musical people, about being the kind of people who keep gathering, keep feeding one another, keep dancing, keep telling stories, and keep blessing life out loud. And maybe it is not only despite the history, maybe it is, in some mysterious way, because of it. Because when you come from a people that have known struggle, you learn that joy is not frivolous. Joy is precious. Joy is defiant. Joy is the soul insisting that it still belongs to life. Choosing joy in public was not escapism. Joy did not erase struggle. It existed alongside it. And that is precisely what made it powerful. It is not a denial of reality, but a response to it. When I read those words, I thought, that is Jewish joy too. In many ways, it is the spiritual argument of Purim itself, that even a threatened people can still sing and laugh, that even when the story contains danger, we insist on feasting because despair is not allowed to win. So I stand before you as someone holding three joys. I hold my Latin American joy, a joy that comes from family, rhythm, music, food, storytelling, loud love, and the refusal to be shamed for celebration. I hold my Jewish joy, a joy that comes from Mitzvot, from commandments, from Shabbat, from the sounds of Hebrew, from Torah, from blessings, from a people who keep living. And I hold my New Orleans joy, the joy of my new home, the joy of a city that knows how to turn survival into song. And I believe these joys belong together. So here's my invitation as we celebrate Mardi Gras and as we enter Adar. Don't just enjoy joy. Increase it. If you have joy, share it. If you have energy, bring it to someone who is tired. If you have a table, invite someone to eat. If you have a song, sing it louder. And if you're someone standing outside the circle, too sad to join, may someone take your hand. And if you're in the circle, Or in the second line, may you be the one who breaks away and pulls someone in. Because that is what joy is, a mitzvah, a refusal of despair, and a triumph of the Spirit.